turn it down?
You can't force feed faith to
It's critical that everyone realize that number one, can you hear me? Dave Peltz in this movie is the gentleman that owned the telephone building across the street. So he's a Millerite. And then Bettina Drew, who's been speaking so much in this film, is here today and will be speaking tomorrow.
It's the blind.
And there was one other thing. Oh, Warren Lemming, there was in this movie quite a bit. He was supposed to be here with the band tomorrow night, but he's had cancer surgery, so he can't make it. Anyway, I wanted to point out that this film is available for purchase for $20. I mean, it's such an incredible film. It's such a good documentary, so it is available. And Dennis has also produced this video as well on Howard Zinn, so those are both available. And now let us get Mark and Bettina and Dennis up here.
Thank you. I'm going to move these over here. And sorry to run away from people. Thank you very much. And any questions? And yes.
What's the date on this?
It was finished in 2015. But obviously, you know, with Stubbs and Kurt Vonnegut and the other people,
Stu McCarroll,
who are all deceased, you know, a lot of it was shot earlier in the 1990s by Mark over here.
So I was wondering when you shot the ones with Dave Peltz. I used to work with him a half a time ago.
So the story of the film is that I started the filmmaking with Warren Lemming back in the early 90s. Actually, there was a whole interview with Bettina that you didn't see anything of.
Right, in New York.
In New York, yes, we reshot it. Actually, when Bettina was in Savannah. But long story short, there were about 3 years in the early 90s where I shot the initial footage, ran into some financial difficulties, was not able to finish the film, and then came back in 2012 and recruited Dennis to help finish the film, and then we went back and shot Bettina. That was about, 2012, 2013, around there. So there's 2 distinct periods, and then there's all sorts of historic footage that Dennis helped research and acquire.
Other questions? Yes.
Why was there so much footage of Nelson? I mean, how did that get shot?
Yeah, the question is, where did we find the footage of Nelson?
Yeah.
That's a great story. They were. Dennis can tell this one.
Mark had known and everybody the Goldstein film that what Phil Kaufman did.
Right.
We were looking for and found something about the New Deal for artists, and Nelson Algren was in there. Okay, and looked up the guy, and he's a big-time German executive producer, actually. He was the executive producer on Wise Blood, but he was a young man with, you know, so I got to talk to him about John Huston, which was, like, great for me. And when he was a young man, though, he came out to the United States, and he did a film about the Federal Writers Project, the whole thing, the Federal Artists Project, the Theater Project, and you know, we looked it up and found it. We also found another German, Wolf, whatever, I forget his last name and I can't pronounce it, but anyways, he shot that stuff in Sag Harbor. And those were the 2 things, and the stills were from, you know, mostly Stephen Deutsch and his library, and, you know, a couple of Artie's photos. So that's where we got, like, the Nelson stuff.
Yeah, I think he'd been. I think he appeared on some TV shows, didn't he, Dennis?
He appeared on the Merv Griffin show, but it was all about his fisherman book and Ernest Hemingway. So I was really excited to, find it. Go, all right. Well, he's going to ask him something about a man with a golden arm and that. Well, he's going to ask him something. And after about a half hour of watching it was nice looking footage too. I kind of wanted us to license it. I just went, I can see no way that we can use this, especially at $60 a second. Interestingly though, there's an interesting story about the footage. There was a story that William Buckley made Nelson Algren become tongue-tied. And it circulated in the New Yorker and all that. Well, we found out that was a lie. It never happened. How do we know it never happened? Well, it was Buckley on firing line. So I found who had all of the firing lines as an archival. And Algren never appeared on it.
Right.
In fact the editor of the New Yorker, next time you read the New Yorker, was one of the people who was writing about this. It's like it was just, oh yeah, when Buckley died, he reduced him. What a joke. So don't believe anything in the New Yorker.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Question for Bettina, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, how did he happen to choose Miller Beach as this natural?
He used to come, as a child, he had come, he had an older sister, and sometimes the family, I think, rented a place on the dunes. So he knew the dunes. And he knew in 1950, the first time that he went to Hollywood, that he wanted to buy a house on the dunes. So I guess it was a long-standing dream, and then, he won the National Book Award, he went to Hollywood, he got a little cash, and he bought the house.
Did Simone de Beauvoir know that her photo was being taken? Because she did have heels on when he did take her photo. So I'm wondering.
Well, Art can answer that question tomorrow. But
I have to work tomorrow. I can't be here.
I think not.
Yeah, that's what story.
Just knowing Shay, he would have been looking for an opportunity.
I think after reading a lot about Simone, she might have. She's not exactly who you think she is.
No,
I have a comment on that.
Oh, here we go. Okay, maybe we got the truth.
Is Cullen here? Cullen and David were at the Gage Theater or Gallery in Chicago with us, and Cullen asked that question, how did that picture come about? And Art Shea said she knew full well that he was down the hall.
I was right.
with a camera.
Well, everyone knew that she liked to keep the door open when she used the bathroom. And I guess that when Art and Simone were driving over to this bathroom so she could take a bath, she was hitting on him, and he kept saying, I am a happily married man. I love my wife, and he kept hitting on. So then she came out of the tub, and Art was just, poised to take that photograph. So, I think that's hilarious.
Thank you.
It is hilarious, and it sort of demonstrates the volatility of Nelson and Simone's relationship.
She also one time, probably more than once, that she would ask, how was your sex life? To Algren's friends as like jokes. And they would be like, and she just kind of laughed. So I'm not surprised that she knew, actually. Like I said, and I wrote a script, I don't know if it's any good, but I studied a lot about Simone, and I came to the conclusion she is not who you think she is.
Now, I'd like to add something to that, which was that she had a friend named Natalie Sorokine, and when she was visiting Algren in Miller one time, Sorokine came to visit because she too was traveling to the United States. Well, I don't know how, but as soon as he met Sorokine, Nelson knew. He knew just by the way, I don't know, maybe they touched each other briefly, he knew they had been involved. And he immediately got Sorokine a room down the street, not in his house, down the Street. And I thought it was kind of funny that he took this instant dislike to her. But later, scholars found that she was bisexual and she had relationships with women. So he was right on target.
Yeah. I don't know why you didn't want to just her to hang out. But. Any other questions?
Did you try to interview Art Shea for the film?
Mark interviewed him a long time ago, but it was older footage. And Art was really connected with another gentleman, Michael Kaplan. We didn't think it was cool for Art to seem to be competing against himself and all that. And we had a lot of other people, as well. So the answer, he's a great photographer. I love, for everyone here, though, terrific photographer. So, but it didn't seem. We had a lot of older footage, and there were a couple other people we should have interviewed too. Probably.
But there were 2 films made around the same time too.
Right,
so
right.
that
There's a
put
third
some
one now,
people
too.
in different camps.
Right. We had a strategy in doing our film where there were some older interviews, and the quality, for instance, the Art interview the quality wasn't really that great. Number one. Number two, we decided to pick people that we had a very distinct separation of who we were putting into the film, and we were aware to some degree of what was in the other film, and we wanted a different perspective. So.
Yeah, one thing I do regret is that now that we probably didn't interview Russell Banks, because he has a really super story. But a little interesting story about Banks' story and Algren, and then you might find this fascinating. When Russell Banks went to Middlebury for Bread Loaf, he was just kind of starting writing. He was a working class guy, and Algren kind of gave him confidence. He circled the thing and said, "That's writing." And now I told you right like that. And also, since he was bored with Algren, with the niceties of Middlebury. Middlebury's in Vermont. It's kind of like an Ivy League school, really expensive and prestigious. And Algren just wanted to get away from all the academics. So it's a great story. And that really inspired Russell Banks to write, because there was someone of his quality, stature that he admired and said, "Hey, you can write, you can do this." So I kind of regret that.
Yeah, and I may be wrong here, but I think Algren introduced Banks to his agent.
Probably. I'll ask him.
I think, he did encourage Banks a great deal. Any other questions?
I noticed the address where he was living on Evergreen Street, but do you have the address where he was living on Wabanza Street?
Well, we know the address. It's in the book.
No images. Well, there is the one image over here. Actually, I think that image that it's in the gallery, that might be shot from the his writer's studio.
I noticed that like that kind of a fence on the top. I know which house it is. So.
Well, the house is no longer there.
Yeah, that house is torn down.
The highway goes right over it.
Yeah, that was it. The highway took it out.
The highway knocked it out. But there's a photo over there I do believe was shot from the office. It's one where Nelson's sitting at his typewriter. In the background, there's a bar on the street. I believe that's Wabanza.
Isn't that Robert McCullough's photograph?
There's the one at Art. There might be. There's also another one. I think McCullough shot in the same office as well, but slightly different, a little earlier, I think.
So what did he die of? A heart attack?
Heart attack.
Yeah.
He was having a heart attack.
Right.
He was having a party.
Okay.
And it was a really prestigious party. And, his doctor told him he was having a heart attack. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he went to his doctor.
He had a pacemaker.
Yeah, he had a pacemaker. And they told him not to. And he said, "I have to."
Have to what? Have a party?
Have a party?
It was a big thing for him. Tina maybe can talk about this more.
All I know is that, it was the day of the party, and Algren was friends with a New York City detective named Roy Feiner. And Feiner was, scheduled to go over earlier in the day and sort of help him with the party and whatnot. And Nelson didn't answer the door, and, he was a homicide detective, and he broke in and Nelson was dead in the bathroom. He just died of a heart attack.
A few details. Nelson was having the party because he was being inducted to the American Institute of Arts and Letters. And so there was this very surreal scene. People are showing up in very, fine clothing at Sag Harbor, at the Hamptons. They're coming in, and there's Nelson's dead, and the homicide detective from New York finds Nelson with the body, and his watch was broken, so he knows exactly the time when he passed away. And the night before, there was an interview with, I believe it was a British reporter, but they had asked a lot of questions about the relationship with Simone, and apparently Nelson had gotten very upset, so who knows, maybe that might have spurred that on.
He was born in 1909, so he would have been in the Army in the late 20s, right around the crash, and then did he go to the University of Illinois?
No, he went
into the Army they tried in 42.
He was in his 30s.
Rather reluctantly.
He was older.
42?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was single, and
Yeah, Dave's taking everybody,
Yeah.
If you were able-bodied, except for John Wayne and people like that.
he was.
They didn't go.
Did he do any writing at the University of Illinois, or was it the WPA?
Yes, no, he did. He did quite a bit of writing at the University of Illinois, and he wrote a number of. He just wrote short stories for his composition class, and of course the instructor, was, on the ball and told him just keep writing. Don't worry that it's not the assignments. Just write whatever you want. And so, he started young.
I'd also like to, as we go on into questions, if you want to buy a copy, it's over there before you leave. Just making a little plug, and we'll continue with questions. Go ahead.
Has he gotten his critical acclaim? Have critics revisited his work, and is he studied in in college?
He's kind of. I think he's more or less forgotten. There's kind of a cult, I would say.
I think we're in it.
I think you're in it. And I would say no, he is not in the canon. The canon having been formed in the era of this new criticism, which was a criticism that looked at like symbols and things like this, and not at historical and social context, which was of course what Nelson was all about.
There's a whole backstory to that would be worthy of a film itself. It was just too complicated to put into the film. Paul Buell, is anybody the historian? Yeah. He explained it as a war, so to speak, between the Jewish community. And about the whole Red Scare and all that, because there was such anti-Semitism that was involved in the Red Scare, and it was something I never thought of, and I think Paul is absolutely right, because what you saw, and you saw in our film a little bit of how these critics in the new criticism, as Bettina said, were not interested in the author. They were not interested in historical things. And fortunately, that's a little out of favor now, that type of criticism, but...
Yes, it's kind of faded.
But,
But then they got into all kinds of deconstruction and other weird...
Yeah. But I like deconstruction.
Do you? Okay. I didn't understand it.
We got a question here.
I'm curious which of you directors or authors and the books, what will be available tomorrow and who?
Everything.
Questions. You'll be back tomorrow?
Yeah.
More questions?
Yeah.
And
Whatever you like.
Sue will.
Okay.
So tomorrow at noon, we have Art Shea speaking, and then we have Bettina Drew speaking, and then we have two people from Chicago that are very eminent scholars on Nelson Algren. So please come back tomorrow at noon, because we have a great lineup. Can you come back?
I'll be back. I'll be there.
Okay,
I'll be back.
and Mark, and please check out their DVD. I mean, it's a $20 deal. I think it's well worth the price. It was a phenomenal documentary.
It's wonderful,
Thank you.
Dennis. It really is.
There's one copy left if you haven't seen or don't know of Howard Zinn. There's one copy there. He is one amazing guy.
He was a historian who wrote The People's History of the United States, which still sells quite a bit. And that was a great movie.
Okay.
I just want to thank you all for coming out. Thank you for Sue and George. Thank you for the Art Center.